Have you ever wondered why, despite your best intentions, change feels almost impossible sometimes? You tell yourself you'll be more confident, more disciplined, more courageous. You make promises in the quiet moments of reflection. You feel the pull toward a better version of yourself. And yet, when life presses against you, in stress, in fear, in old familiar patterns, you slip back into ways of being you thought you'd outgrown. Why? Why does the mind resist the very change it seems to desire? Maybe the better question is, what if the real obstacle isn't you, but the invisible architecture your own thoughts have built inside your brain? Every thought you have is not just a passing mist. It's a biological event, a surge of neurons firing, a pathway lighting up, a network being strengthened. Most people live unaware that every moment of inner dialogue is either reinforcing the prison walls or carving a door out. You are, right now, without realizing it, rewiring your brain every single day. The question is, are you doing it consciously? Or are you allowing old fears, doubts, and assumptions to shape you? Your brain is not a static machine. It's a living system, adapting constantly to your experiences, your habits, your beliefs. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to change itself. But here's the paradox. The same power that can heal and transform you can also trap you deeper into cycles of anxiety, depression, and limitation. If left unconscious, every repetition of "I'm not good enough," every silent rehearsal of worst-case scenarios, every grudge silently relived, every fear nurtured in the shadows of your mind, all of it strengthens neural pathways that define who you become. Not metaphorically, literally. You become what you habitually think, not overnight, but inevitably. Imagine a field of fresh snow. The first time you walk across it, you leave a faint path. The next time you step in those same footprints, the trail deepens, again and again, until eventually it becomes the only obvious route to take. Your thoughts work the same way. The more you think a thought, the easier it becomes to think it again. The more familiar it feels, the more natural it seems, until one day you forget it was ever a choice. Here's the great tragedy and the great hope intertwined. Most people are sculpting their futures unconsciously, but you can learn to do it deliberately. You can stop reinforcing the neural pathways of fear, guilt, and helplessness. You can start wiring your mind for clarity, resilience, creativity, and inner peace. Not through force or self-hatred, but through awareness, through intention, through small, consistent acts of mental courage. Because the brain doesn't care what you're repeating. It simply obeys. It reshapes itself according to your dominant thoughts, whether those thoughts liberate you or enslave you. And once you understand that, a profound shift begins. You stop being merely a product of your past. You start becoming the conscious architect of your future. But how? How do you break free from years, maybe decades, of unconscious wiring? How do you interrupt the cycles that seem so deeply etched into your very being? It begins with seeing the invisible. It begins with understanding the hidden architecture of your mind, the roots buried deep in psychology, survival instincts, and ancient emotional patterns. It begins with realizing that the battle is not against your brain. It's against the unconscious programming you've inherited, absorbed, and repeated without knowing. And once you see it, you can change it. Brick by brick, thought by thought, day by day. You are not broken. You are not incapable. You are simply walking down familiar neural paths, but new paths can be forged. And today, you can pick up the chisel. The hidden problem isn't simply that your brain rewires itself. The real trap is that it rewires itself most easily under the influence of unconscious, repetitive, emotionally charged thoughts, especially negative ones. Why? Because your brain was designed first and foremost for survival, not happiness, not fulfillment, not enlightenment. At its core, your nervous system is still ancient. It evolved to notice danger, predict threats, and replay painful experiences so that you could avoid them in the future. This is called the negativity bias, a deeply ingrained survival mechanism where negative experiences imprint faster and deeper than positive ones. In the wild, this made sense. Remembering which berry killed your cousin was more important than savoring the sunset. But in the modern world, where existential threats are rare and psychological ones are rampant, this ancient wiring can turn against you. Today, it's not the tiger in the bushes that threatens you. It's the email you dread opening, the judgment you fear facing, the self-criticism that whispers, "You're not enough." And every time you rehearse these fears mentally, even silently, your brain strengthens the circuits of anxiety, worry, and shame. You are unknowingly building highways for suffering. Not because you're broken, because you are human. This is why mindfulness feels so hard. Why positive thinking sometimes feels fake. Why change seems like swimming upstream. You're not just trying to think differently. You're trying to overcome millions of years of evolutionary conditioning. You're trying to rewire a system that, left unattended, defaults toward fear. And if you don't consciously intervene, the grooves deepen. By adulthood, many people are running on mental autopilot, trapped inside internal monologues they didn't even choose. You think you're thinking, but often you're just rehearsing old survival scripts. Scripts inherited from your upbringing, from cultural conditioning, from past trauma, from millions of years of biological evolution. Philosophers saw this long before neuroscience gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Nietzsche warned, "Beware that, when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster, for he who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become one." They understood that, without self-awareness, the very act of surviving hardship could transform a person into something bitter, cynical, fearful, not because life is cruel, but because the mind is impressionable. Whatever you dwell upon, you become. Modern psychology echoes this truth. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, one of the most researched and effective therapies today, is built on a simple but profound idea. Thoughts shape feelings. Feelings shape behaviors. Behaviors reinforce thoughts. A closed loop. If you think, "I am a failure," you feel hopeless. When you feel hopeless, you act half-heartedly or avoid action altogether. When you avoid action, you get poorer results, which reinforce the thought, "See, I am a failure." The loop deepens, and the brain, ever obedient, strengthens the wiring. But here's the deeper problem. Most of this happens below the surface of awareness. You don't wake up and say, Today I'll sabotage my dreams. You don't consciously choose to doubt yourself or fear success. The grooves are already there, etched into your neural landscape by years of repetition, by countless micro moments of thought and emotion. By the time you're aware of the pattern, it's already strong. You are not the villain of your story. You are the gardener who forgot he was planting seeds. And now, some of those seeds have grown into tangled vines, blocking your light. But here's a liberating truth. You can clear the garden. You can plant anew. It won't be effortless. It won't be instant, but it is possible. Neuroscience shows us that the brain remains plastic, capable of change well into old age. And philosophy reminds us that meaning is never given. It is created. You are not doomed to live out the scripts you inherited. You can choose awareness over autopilot. You can choose creation over repetition. You can choose to sculpt your mind consciously, lovingly. But first, you must see the hidden architecture for what it is. A masterpiece in progress. Flawed, messy, incomplete, and waiting for your hand to shape it. Most people don't notice the damage until it's already done. The brain does not announce when a destructive pattern becomes permanent. It does not warn you with sirens when a limiting belief hardens into identity. The consequences of unconscious mental wiring are subtle at first, almost invisible. You simply start feeling heavier, more anxious, more exhausted, more disconnected from your dreams. You start doubting possibilities you once believed in. You lower your standards, not because you want to, but because your mind quietly convinces you it's realistic. You call it maturity. You call it being practical, but often it is simply the slow erosion of possibility. Over time, the unseen consequences accumulate. Chronic stress. Your brain, wired for constant threat, floods your body with constant threat, floods your body with cortisol even in the absence of real danger. You live in a state of low-grade emergency, wearing down your immune system, your energy, your hope. Self-sabotage. Deeply ingrained thought loops of, I'm not good enough, cause you to unconsciously avoid opportunities that could change your life. You procrastinate. You downplay your talents. You stay small, not because you want to, but because your mind has made the path of fear the easiest one to walk. Emotional numbness. When negativity dominates your internal world, you may begin to blunt your emotions just to survive. Joy feels muted. Curiosity withers. Life becomes a series of obligations rather than a source of wonder. Relationship fractures. When your mind is wired for fear, you interpret neutral comments as criticism, opportunities for connection as threats. You may push people away without meaning to, and deepen the very loneliness you fear. A shrinking future, perhaps the most tragic consequence. Your vision of what's possible contracts. You stop dreaming big dreams. You stop taking bold risks. You settle, not because you have to, but because your brain has been conditioned to believe. Better isn't possible for people like me. In the quiet of your own mind, a revolution was needed, but the silence drowned it out. Now here's the most painful part. You can become so used to living in a cage that you forget it's a cage. You decorate it, you normalize it, you defend it when someone questions it, because the brain craves familiarity over freedom. It would rather walk a known, painful path than risk the unknown. The mind chooses certainty, even if it costs you your soul. Culturally, this is happening on a massive scale. Anxiety, depression, burnout. They are not just personal failures. They are symptoms of collective neural wiring shaped by constant fear, scarcity thinking, and relentless comparison. Social media algorithms reward outrage and insecurity, wiring brains for judgment, reactivity, and addictive distraction. Consumer culture wires people to seek identity through external validation rather than internal growth. Educational systems wire conformity, not creativity. Workplaces wire stress, not meaning. The personal becomes political. The internal becomes external. When millions of minds are wired for fear, the collective reality becomes one of division, suspicion, and despair. The unseen consequences of unconscious thought patterns ripple out, shaping not just individual lives, but the entire fabric of society. We build systems that reflect the cages inside us, and we pass them on. Children inherit not just our DNA, but our emotional landscapes. They learn not just what we say, but what we silently believe about ourselves and the world. Thus, the chains are passed generation to generation, invisible yet ironclad. But there is a hidden hope within this bleakness. If the brain can be wired for fear, it can also be wired for freedom. If thoughts can entrench suffering, they can also carve paths toward wisdom, compassion, resilience. If one unconscious mind can harm, one conscious mind can heal. Not just itself, but everyone it touches. You are not powerless. You are not broken beyond repair. You are standing at the threshold between unconscious inheritance and conscious creation, between fear and possibility, between default wiring and deliberate evolution. The cost of unconscious thought is heavy, but the reward for conscious thought is nothing less than liberation. And that journey from prisoner to sculptor begins not with massive change, but with a simple shift, becoming aware, becoming a witness to your own mind, not to judge, not to shame, but to finally, mercifully, choose. Rebellion does not begin with anger. It does not begin with shouting or fists raised to the sky. True rebellion, the kind that matters, begins silently. It begins the moment you decide to reclaim the authorship of your own mind, the moment you realize that not every thought deserves your belief, that not every emotion needs to become your identity, that not every neural groove, no matter how deep, defines your destiny. It is the quiet, fierce act of choosing consciousness over autopilot, and like all revolutions, it begins with awareness. Step 1. Witness your mind without judgment. Noticing is power. Every time you catch a thought pattern, a loop of fear, self-doubt, or hopelessness, without instantly fusing with it, you weaken its grip. You step into the role of the observer. You create space between stimulus and response. In that space, as Viktor Frankl said, lies your freedom. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Step 2. Question the familiar lies. Challenge the thoughts that have lived unexamined for too long. Is it really true that I'm not good enough? Whose voice is this? Mine or someone else's from long ago? What if the opposite of this thought could also be true? Interrogate your inner narratives like a wise philosopher, not a scornful judge. The goal is not self-attack. The goal is liberation through clarity. Step 3. Consciously choose new pathways. Neuroscience shows that repetition is the key to rewiring the brain. Not intensity, not force, repetition. A single new thought, planted and tended every day, has the power to outgrow the forests of fear. Imagine it. Each morning, a conscious statement, I am capable of growth. Each night, a reflection, I am more than my doubts. Not grand declarations that feel fake. Small truths, spoken consistently. Because the brain listens more to consistency than to drama. ISPOD 4. Engage the body. The mind and body are not separate. Every thought has a somatic echo. When fear loops play out in your mind, your body tenses. Your breath shortens. Your posture collapses. To rewire your mind, engage your body as an ally. Practice deep breathing to calm the nervous system. Move with presence. Walk, stretch, stand tall. Anchor new thoughts in physical sensations. Confidence, openness, gratitude. This is not mind over matter. This is mind with matter. A holistic rebellion. Step 5. Ritualize the new identity. Behavior cements belief. Act as the person you are becoming, not the person you have been. Tiny rituals forge new neural pathways. A journal entry each morning stating one thing you're proud of. A 5-minute gratitude practice before sleep. A weekly reflection. What new thoughts am I cultivating? No ritual is too small. Each is a brushstroke on the canvas of your mind. Consistency over intensity. Direction over perfection. History shows us that great revolutions rarely succeed through force alone. They succeed when a new story captures the hearts of those who were once imprisoned by the old. The same is true within you. You are not fighting your mind. You are inviting it into a new story. A story where resilience grows stronger than fear, where curiosity outshines judgment, where self-compassion replaces shame. This is how you break free, not by erasing your old wiring overnight, but by steadily building new highways of thought until the old paths crumble from disuse. And if you falter, if you find yourself slipping back into familiar patterns, good. It means you're aware. It means you are witnessing the battlefield, not sleepwalking through it. Every stumble is a sign you're on the path of consciousness. Every moment of awareness is a small act of revolution. The rebellion has already begun. With every breath, with every thought you challenge, with every seed of kindness you plant toward yourself, you are defying millennia of unconscious conditioning. You are not just changing your mind. You are changing the world inside you. And that world will echo into everything you touch. At the heart of it all lies one simple, breathtaking truth. You are not merely a passenger of your mind. You are its architect. Your thoughts are not just echoes of your past. They are blueprints for your future. Each day, with every conscious or unconscious thought, you are laying bricks, carving pathways, building cathedrals or prisons within yourself. The mind is not a static entity, fixed and final. It is a river, flowing, adapting, endlessly reshaping itself according to the terrain you place before it. And you, yes, you are the one who shapes that terrain, not by force, not by willpower alone, but by choosing, again and again, where to place your attention. Attention is the ultimate sculptor. Where attention goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, life grows. The final realization is almost embarrassingly simple, yet endlessly profound. You become what you consistently contemplate. If you dwell on fear, you grow anxious. If you dwell on anger, you grow bitter. If you dwell on resentment, you grow trapped in the past. But if you dwell on possibility, you grow resilient. If you dwell on gratitude, you grow expansive. If you dwell on self-compassion, you grow whole. Neuroscience validates what mystics and philosophers have whispered for millennia. The Buddha taught that what you think, you become. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Modern neuroscience shows that repeated thoughts forge the structure of the brain itself. 3 perspectives. 1. Truth. You are becoming something every moment. The only question is, are you becoming what you truly desire? Or are you unconsciously becoming what your old fears demand? It is not enough to wish. It is not enough to wait. Life is not a rehearsal. You do not get to sculpt your mind someday when circumstances are perfect, when you're less busy, when you're ready. You are sculpting it right now with the thoughts you allow to linger, with the emotions you choose to feed, with the stories you silently accept or courageously rewrite. The greatest tragedy is not that people fail. It is that they succeed in becoming precisely what they never wanted, simply because they let old unconscious thoughts run the show. But it does not have to be your story. You are the artist. You are the gardener. You are the architect. The brush is already in your hand. The seeds are already before you. The blueprints are already unfolding. Imagine your mind not as a battlefield, but as a vast fertile field under the morning sun. You can choose what to plant. You can choose what to water. You can choose what to pull up by the roots. Even if your hands tremble, and day by day, thought by thought, you can cultivate a life that blooms in ways you have not yet dared to imagine. The final, most powerful realization is this: you are not rewiring your brain once. You are rewiring it always. Every sunrise is a fresh chance. Every breath is a new beginning. You do not need permission. You do not need perfection. You need only to begin. So begin. Plant a single thought of courage today. Water it tomorrow with a breath of self-kindness. Shield it the next day from the storms of old doubt. Tend to it with patience, with love, with fierce gentleness. And one day, without fanfare, you will look around and realize you are living inside a mind you chose. A mind wired not for fear, but for freedom. Not for scarcity, but for possibility. Not for survival, but for life in all its vivid, radiant fullness. The masterpiece was never beyond you. It was always within you, waiting for your hand, your voice, your choice.